Genie Oil Investigation Part 4. I'm going to move my information about the 1998 embassy bombings to the next video. Even if I don't respond to them all, I do skim through all of the comments that you guys leave me, and a few of you have asked that I take a second and help to explain to you how I'm going about my research. A viewer named Adox specifically asked about my sources, my thought process, how I conduct my investigations. I could spend a lot of time explaining all that. Maybe I'll devote a series just to the topic of how to conduct research and investigations, but for the sake of time, let me just give you a quick idea of how I do my research. So for example, I said in my last video that Osama bin Laden was a CIA asset, right? What sources do I have to confirm this? Well, I've got a lot of statements, long list from various sources that I've gathered that say that the CIA worked with Osama bin Laden. It often takes at least an hour or two for me to confirm each one of those claims. So let me give you an example. On November 12th of 2000, this journalist for the BBC World News Dispatch guy named Luke Harding wrote an article entitled Bin Laden, the Question Facing the Next U.S. President. And in it, he claimed that in 1986, the CIA helped Osama bin Laden to build an underground camp at Khost, which is one of the places that bin Laden would train recruits and engage in guerrilla warfare training. So he supposedly had operations above and below ground at this location in Khost. Now, I just love to bash the mainstream media just like you guys do. But the truth is that the lower level investigative journalists, they're usually not the problem. The problem are the editors and their bosses who try to stifle certain lines of research and use their power to spin the stories to match up with whatever the official narrative of the day is. And of course, that official narrative is usually handed down to the media moguls and the executives who are told what to say and what to think about matters. It comes from their puppet masters in the Bilderberg group. But a good independent journalist can usually look at an article written by a mainstream media reporter and filter out that propaganda and glean potential facts from the reports. But you don't just rely on your assumption that these potential facts are correct. You have to take the time to verify them. So, for example, I've got this statement by the BBC's Luke Harding, who's claiming that in '86 the CIA helped bin Laden to build the underground camp at Khost. Now, this is just on the Afghan side of the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. So did it actually happen? The CIA maintains that it has never helped Osama bin Laden in any way, shape, or form. So who's correct here? The journalist or the CIA? The mark of a true investigator is to do what other people aren't willing to do, and that is to take the time to verify the information. One way that I try to do that is to follow the money. So I have to find out, was the CIA funding bin Laden as he worked with these mujahideen in Afghanistan? If so, was that money coming from any official government channels that we can verify? The answer to that question is yes. I traced the money to National Security Decision Directive number 166. And that was signed by President Reagan in March of 1985. And I'll link to it if you want to take a look at it. It's been unclassified. It'll be in the comments section there. So the directive authorized this massive expansion of funding for covert operations. They called it Operation Cyclone. And they were providing up to $630 million a year for this secret CIA program to train mujahideen and other mercenaries to fight against the Soviets. Now, we looked to see if any of that funding was used to build an underground camp at Khost. And this is where it gets trickier to confirm, because while the Afghan mujahideen were more willing to work directly with the CIA, the Afghan Arabs were a whole lot more suspicious of the Americans' motives. And so the CIA had to do a lot of its work with this Arab faction using the Pakistani Inter-Services Intelligence Operations, or the ISI, as their intermediary. It's basically the same as how the CIA today funnels money and weapons to Al-Qaeda in Syria, using the Saudis and the Qataris as their intermediaries. It's all just a shell game. Following the money is like trying to follow the ball passed under the cup in, the street gambling game. So anyway, was there an underground base in Khost? Yes, there was. I found tons of sources to confirm that the base existed. The underground base had a series of elaborate tunnels, built underground. It had an underground field hospital for wounded fighters. It was used to store weapons and to help fighters hide when the Russians would come over with their air attacks. So next question, who paid for it and who built it? So acting on gut instinct, I went looking to see if there was a record of the Pakistani ISI funding the base for bin Laden. And I found that the UK Guardian confirmed back in 2001 that the CIA helped bin Laden to build an underground camp in Khost to train the Mujahideen, and it even revealed that bin Laden had brought in his own construction team from Saudi Arabia to do the work on the tunnels. In case you don't know this, the bin Laden family back in Saudi Arabia that Osama comes from, they made their fortune from construction. So the Guardian said that the CIA got weapons into the hands of the Pakistanis and the Saudis, which then smuggled them on the backs of donkeys across the border from Peshawar and into the tunnel complex that was built and maintained by bin Laden. But the most useful piece of information from that article was the statement that the money for the operation had been channeled to bin Laden through Pakistani's ISI. The CIA does this all the time. They want to be able to deny guilt for things that they know they shouldn't be doing, so they work through these other parties to do some of their dirty work. Think of it this way. I can walk up to somebody and punch them in the face myself, or I can secretly give $10 to the guy next to me if he'll go punch the guy in the face for me. Either way, I'm the one who's responsible for the man getting punched in the face. But at least in the second scenario, I can deny that I personally punched the victim. And that's exactly how the CIA operates. So the fact that the CIA passed money on to the ISI to pass on to bin Laden confirms at least one major instance of the CIA funding bin Laden. And it also confirms that my gut instinct had been correct. Instinct is very, very important to me in my investigations. I don't know how to teach it to somebody else. Either you have it or you don't. But I think it also helps to become an expert in certain areas, because the more you know about a subject, the more likely you are to have sudden inspirations of thought that lead you down, certain paths. It just comes with time and experience. I hope you can appreciate how much time I put in the research for my videos just to verify that one claim by Luke Harding about the underground base that the CIA helped bin Laden with. It took me hours of research, and that's just for one single fact. And I've used that same process to verify other facts, such as bin Laden receiving security training from the CIA. I've got a statement from Robin Cook, who is the Foreign Secretary of the UK, who confirmed that the CIA was arming bin Laden. I've got this statement from Prince Bandar, you've heard me talk about him, of Saudi Arabia, that bin Laden once personally thanked him for helping to get more CIA involvement with bin Laden's forces. And I've got a statement from former British Defense Secretary Michael Perillo, and also from Pakistani Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, both of whom said that Osama bin Laden used to be very pro-American until the CIA turned on him. So to ADOX and the others who want to follow my thought process a little, I know this wasn't exactly what you're looking for, but maybe you now have a little better sense of what I do. I'm putting a handful of links to some of this stuff that I talked about in this video in the description if you want to take a look at it for yourself. Okay, so that's out of the way. In the next video, we're going to jump into these embassy bombings, and I'm going to start to show you how it's connected to the events going on in Syria and what it has to do with Somalia and the Rothschild sucker there in Britain who is behind all of this.